my name's Grandad.
Hello everyone, welcome back to this week's vlog, and this week I'm going to continue with the curtains and blinds, and this bit is the hem of the blinds I've done in the saloon, dinette and galley. The blind I showed you in part 1 just had a flat straight hem, and this one I've done as a shaped the bottom of it, and I've used some piping around that bottom just to sort of like highlight that shape. And so I'm just showing you here what I did with the hem of all the other blinds before I show you how to finish the blind. So I've just put the piping around the bottom, and this is going to be for the Roman blinds, but also I've used it for the pelmet that goes over the Venetian blinds. So once the piping cord was covered, I've just sandwiched it between the back of the blind and the front of the blind, so it's like trapped in the middle of it. And I've tried to lay the fabric so there's a bird on that middle centerpiece, because that is going to be seen from the outside. This bit is the pelmet, and this is going to sit over the Venetian blind, and I've used the same shape at the bottom, and I've sandwiched the piping cord in between. And the only difference is with this, I've put some wadding and some interfacing on just to pad it out so it becomes a little bit stiffer to hold around the Venetian blind. Because of all the layers, I've graded the seam allowance, and that just helps when you actually fold it back the right way. You haven't got a big bulk of all the ends of the fabric finishing at the same time. It sort of like helps them lay flat. So that's it turned inside the right way, and it's all laying nice and neat. You can see how the piping just sets that bottom piece off. And all there is to do now is just make the side pieces that will go around the Venetian blind top. So instead of the fabric just sitting flat, it's actually got some shape to it like a box. The other stuff you need for the blind is some little screw-in eyelets that they're going into the wood for your cords to run through. And then you just need some cord, blind cord. And I either use any of these two. The finer one looks nicest, but I've used the bigger one in the bedroom and the bathroom. That's the word. And these are the little plastic hoops that are stitch on, and these are the little safety hoops that I stitch on, and the cords will run through all of these, and I'll tell you a bit more about these in a little while. The rod that I put through the bottom is 2mm thick aluminium flat bar, and I just got this from Screwfix. You can use anything really for the flat bar, as long as it's weighty enough to keep the blind weighted down at the bottom. For the other bars that thread through the little pockets, the little channels that we've done on the blind, I'm using fibre rod, and it is just a fiberglass rod. It's a little bit lethal when the bits of fibre rod get stuck in your fingers, so you might want to wear gloves if you use it. But I buy it by the roll and just cut off what I need. I like to make the fibre rod slightly shorter, bring it in from the edge, just so it's not like poking out. I can sit nice and comfortably in that pocket. And I buy the little rubber ends that go on the end. These just like hold all the little bits of fibres, because when you snap it off, I mean, these aren't very sharp, but it's good to have some really sharp ones, but they're just a little bit more fiddly to get on. Yeah, I've done it now. Because it pulls all the little bits of fiberglass away, so that just protects them ends and stops it sticking through your blind. And once they're all in, all you have to do is just like slip stitch the end closed, stop them falling out. And as you can see, I've already put the little plastic hoops on that blind, so I'll show you how I done it on this one. And it's better to actually put them on after you've put the rods in the pockets, because you can trap the rod in place as well as stitch the hoop on, and it just like holds it a lot better. And you stitch these on all the pockets in a line going up level with your little metal screw-in eyelet that's on your wooden batten or your track, or whatever you're using to actually use as your curtain header, or blind header I should say. On the lowest pocket nearest the hem, I'm going to put these little safety mechanism little hoops instead of a loop, and these are designed as a safety little gadget that if anyone got caught in the string, if in the cord, this would pull out, I think, but I'm not sure that all blinds have to have these or something similar now if you sell blinds, but I don't know. But I'm going to give them a go anyway. And they're quite strong, so they're not going to pull out when you're putting your blind up and down, but any like a heavier weight that falls or gets trapped in the cord, they should just pull out and the cord can slide through. I still think that there's a lot of dangers with blinds, so use your discretion. Don't just copy what I'm doing, because I'm still not 100% sure about them. So once they're all stitched into place, I just use the cord and thread it through each of the eyelets, each of the little plastic hoops. So I put the first one through and then gradually work my way to the top. So I'm running them straight up to the top of the blind to meet the Velcro. Then what I want to do is estimate actually how much cord I need. So I then pull the cord across the very top and then down the side. And down the side I need to leave as much as I want to actually be able to wrap round my cleat that's going to be attached to the wall. Then I do every row of hoops. So on the bigger blinds I've got up to, I think the ones in the saloon, there's five runs of cord. So you do each one and then taking it over to the same side and then down. And then you need to tie, well, I tie a little knot at the bottom of each of those, underneath those safety little catches. So I'm just trying to see, once the knot's tied, will those little safety catches, when they break off, go through each hoop? and they do, but I still think that they could easily get caught, or if the cord looped over, or that got stuck on one of them. So, but I've put them in anyway. Something else I forgot to tell you to do as well, you need to attach the lining onto the main fabric, and you just catch it. I do it every loop. You just catch the lining through to the main fabric, just with one or two little stitches. It's better to use a thick thread, a strong thread, but I didn't have any, so I've just gone over a few times, and you just see a little indentation on the right side. So Grandad is the model again today, and he's demonstrating actually how you put on the wall. So you just stick the Velcro onto the batten, and then the cord, you thread it through one eyelet, then through the next eyelet, and then through the spare eyelet at the end, and that's the same end as where your cleat is to actually hold the cord to the wall. Then you use the other cord, thread it through the eyelet that's at the top of that, bring it through the spare cord at the end, the spare loop at the end, and then down to where the cleat is. When you pull them up for the first time, they'll get like little creases in. You'll just need to get them laying how you want them, and also eventually I'll have little toggles on the end of those cords before they wrap around the cleat, and you can get all the cords running level. So that's the blinds all finished, so we can now go on to the curtains, and we've got some helpers for those. Doing goblet heading on the top of these curtains. I'm only doing one set of these curtains, and it's for the saloon, and usually I would use a buckram for the top, but I want to try and make the spacing in between the goblet pleats, I want to try and make them a little bit softer, and buckram is quite hard, and even though you get different weights of it, it's still quite stiff and hard. whereas this is interfacing, and even though it's a heavy interfacing, it's still a lot softer than the buckram. I folded the end over because I want it double thickness at the very end, and then I've just sandwiched it between the lining and the curtain, and I'm just going to pin it into place and give it a little bit of a press. It is an iron-on interfacing, and I'm going to have it so it sticks onto the line inside. So I made sure I did the ironing while Grandad wasn't around, so he doesn't get any ideas that I might do some ironing in the future. It's just when I'm sewing is when I use the iron, or when I'm using wood or anything other than clothes. Right, a bit more maths and a bit more working out. So these are the curtains, one pair of curtains, so it's two sides, and then I've got the pole, and I've just put a centre point on the pole. So one half of the curtain is 139 centimetres, and then I need to minus the 67 centimetres, which is the half of the pole, leaving 72. So that's 72 I need to share between how many goblets I want. So I don't know whether I want 6 or 5. So I'm going to try what the measurement is with 6 first of all. So I share that 72 by 6, which leaves 12 centimetres, which is quite a narrow goblet. So I'm going to try 72 divided by 5 goblets, which leaves 14.4, and that's a better amount, I think. So that's what I'm going for, 14.4. So I now know that I'm going to do 5 goblets at 14.4 in size. Once I've done that, I need to work out the spacing in between, and this should be 69 centimetres, because when the curtain's closed we want the curtain to lay flat against the pole, so it needs to be in total 67 centimetres. So we work it out the same as how we did the other the goblets, and that's divide how many spaces there are between each goblet. So we've got the ends, and then we've got the 4 spaces in between them 5 goblets. So we're going to do a bit of maths again, but the first thing that I do is work out actually the end pieces, what size I want those end pieces. And I like to do them depending on the size of the curtains, anything from 6 centimetres to 10 centimetres. So on this one I'm going to do 7 centimetres either side. So I've got to take that measurement off of the 67 centimetres. Oops, I should have done that the other way round. I'll squash it in over here. So we've got 67 centimetres minus the 14. So with the remainder, so what is left of that we've got to divide. So 53 needs to be divided between the other 4 spaces, the 4 spaces between the goblets. So we do 53 divide by 4, because there's 4 spaces, because we've got 5 goblets, which comes to a grand total of, I'm quickly using the calculator here, 13.25. So I know the spaces in between my goblets is 13.25. So now I've worked out that on paper, it makes it a lot easier when it comes to actually working them out on the fabric. I mean, you can mess around with spacings and pins to get the size that you want, but this way it does make it easier to know that it will all fit in and it'll all sit on the pole right. So now I just transfer them measurements to the fabric. So now I've got the spacings of all the goblets, I can put the pins together and making sure that the top edge matches, so the line I'm going to stitch is going to be square, and then I pin down, and it just finishes where I'm going to stitch is just finishing at the bottom of either the buckram or interfacing, whatever you're going to use, and I just need to put all the stitching lines in those next. So once they're all stitched into place, I can just try and rub my fingers in between the goblet, sort of flattening out that seam. When it's buckram, you'll hear it like crack as you're flattening it, but you're just sort of like breaking that that stitching line, making it sort of like sit flatter. So now I've got like my tubes, and I need to gather them up at the bottom. So all I'm doing is pinching them exactly the same as you would do a pinch pleat, and I've done pinch pleats in the bedroom, and you'll see the result of those at the end. And I'm just using that same technique as the pinch pleat, just to get my free folds at the bottom of my goblets. You can also just leave these tubes as tubes and just have that style curtain as well. You can also, when you look at the reverse of these curtains, it's another style that you can use it on the front face instead of the back. Once you've got that like lining at the top, that interfacing or the buckram at the top, you can do lots of different things with it. You can just lay that tube flat and have it like a box pleat. So on the reverse it'll look like an inverted box pleat, and then on the top it'll be a box pleat. You can do lots of different things with it. It's just you can just experiment until you get what you like. So I've pinched the 3 pleats up and then just tacked them into place. Some people machine stitch, so from where I'm pinching there, they do a full machine stitch from the edge of the pleats right to the table, to the flat bit of the curtain. You can do it like that, and you can do it like this. It just depends on what sort of look you want. So the hooks you use for these are the pin hook type curtain hooks, and they've got like a sharp edge, and you push them into between the stitching going up up inside the goblet or the pinch pleat. Always get a measurement all the way along, so you're putting the hook in the same place, and also beforehand make sure that your hook is where you want it to hang, where you want your curtains to hang from. So that it all depends where you want your curtains to hang from, where you put your pin. So you could pull it right further down, right to where the heading starts, or you could have it right near the top. So unlike the others, how you've pushed it through a seam, the last one at either end of the curtain needs to be as close to the end. So where I doubled over that interfacing at the beginning to give a thicker end, I'm pushing it through carefully to go between them 2 pieces of interfacing. I also do a couple of stitches around where that hook goes in, just to make it stronger. And this is the buckram. So it's a lot stiffer than the interfacing, and I'm going to use this to cut up, make a tube and put them inside the goblet to hold the goblet stiff. Sorry, I was trying to do this with one hand while holding the camera, so it's all it's all a little bit all over the place. But as you can see, as you push it in, it gives that goblet that it's round look rather than it looking collapsed. So the centre one has got the buckram in it and the other two haven't. Sometimes if you want a softer feel, you can put some wadding in just to give it a softer but more rounder look. But I wanted this stiff look, just to keep it nice and round. And that's them finished and hung. So you can see that I wanted to see the curtain pole, so I placed my pins so I would still see the pole when the curtains were hanging up. So all the buttons are stitched on and it's all held nice and straight. And the centre is slightly overlapping, so you don't have a gap between your two curtains. That last one, the button was bent. We couldn't pull it together, so I'm one button short there until I get some more. And you can see all that working out with the spacings works really well because everything fits nicely on that pole. So I'll just quickly show you the spacings on the bedroom curtains, but I'm not going to go through the whole system again. I've got my 6.5mm ends, and I've done 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 6.5mm at the other end. And the curtains in the shower room, the bathroom, I've just used a heading tape for those, but I've used a clear heading tape. I'm not a lover of heading tape, but these are only lightweight curtains and you don't see from the back, you don't see outside. So it's just a basic tape, and once it's stitched on, I just pull the cords up and gather it to the right length of the pole for the pole. So once it's all gathered up, it should be the same size as the half of the pole, because there's going to be two curtains. Once they're gathered up, I tie a knot at the end and I tuck the excess into the end, and that's so if I ever want to wash them, I can take it out under the knot and wash them. So I've left that open and not stitched that bit up. So the next curtains are just some really sheer curtains that are going to sit behind the bed. And when I brought this fabric, the bottom end is supposed to be cut straight when they cut it off the roll, but it's never straight with sheer fabric. So I'm just going to show you how you get a straight line and how I use that technique to get all my cutting lines and my fold lines. So I've picked out one thread that's running across the width of the fabric, and then I start like pulling that. So what you usually don't want to do with sheer fabric by accident, I'm actually doing on purpose. So I'm actually pulling that thread out. It's such fine cotton muslin that it snaps sometimes, but as long as I've got that run like a ladder that you usually get when you don't want to, when you catch it on something. So you can just see where there's a thread missing. So once it's laid down flat on the table, you can see actually how unstraight that cut was when I brought the fabric. So now I can see actually where the proper straight line is. I can cut on that line. I can then measure where all my folds are going to be from that line, and where the top of the curtain is from that line, and do the same technique. Pull a thread out for where it's going to be folded, and where the top of the curtain is, and where the fold on that is going to be. Okie dokie. So something a bit different. While you're watching me make this this curtain, a few people have asked me what my background is and what I've done as a living what my business was and everything. So I'm just going to give you a little insight on what I've done. Bear with me. So I started my education and working life in fashion. So from designing, pattern cutting, making, anything really, anything, but mainly clothes. When I finished studying, I set up my own little business making wedding dresses and bridesmaid dresses and ball gowns. But I also used to do fancy dress costumes, because the weddings were seasonal. I found myself sort of like making a lot of theatrical costumes and fancy dress costumes and things, and I slowly sort of like ended up going into that. But before I went into that, I also did a lot of interior design. I think once you're in that industry of textiles, it becomes easy to slip into other things. So I did sportswear, I did interior, upholstery, curtains, just lots of different things through the years. But then towards the end, I went into theatrical costume. I also studied surface pattern, craft design, so anything art and textiles based really. I then started teaching art textiles in schools as a visual artist, and community groups, from anything from people preparing for carnivals to schools doing parades, just anything art and textiles. Anyway, that's enough of me now. Back to showing you the finished result. The only thing I would change on these is I would put a thicker interfacing and perhaps an interlining on that bottom piece, because the light is shining through too much and showing the seam allowance on that. I haven't used blackout lining, and the reason why I didn't do that is because we want these for privacy, and if we have blackout lining all along the boat, then it's going to be very dark in the daytime if we just want them closed for privacy. Also, one of our subscribers, George, he asked a question a few weeks ago about can you get your windows out, seeing that they're so deep, if you want to take the glass out. So we just want to show you we can. So this is the deepest window in the kitchen because of obviously the tiles, but all the windows, the big ones as well as the portholes, you can get out. So I'll just get Grandad to demonstrate actually how you can get them out. The only thing is when you've got them open, they drop forward. The little arms that hold them, we've only got the short ones, so there's not that much gap there. So in the future we may, if we feel that we need it, get the longer ones, and then the window will drop a lot more forward, so it'll be open more. But at the moment they're sort of like tucked away and you don't catch them. So finally, let's show you the finished curtains. I've only got 2 windows that are that have got blinds and curtains on. So this one in the saloon, we've put a blind behind this curtain as well. Just kept it as a plain pink blind because the TV is in front of this window, and so we don't want any light coming through and shining onto the TV. So that's why we've done a blind as well as a curtain on this one. And we've just kept it plain pink, and because the sofa's going to be pink when we finally get a sofa and get rid of them other chairs. And Grandad is demonstrating how to be a window dresser.
A Welsh dresser. French letter or whatever. French letter. Window dresser, that's it. Cross dresser.
You're something anyway.
Like a cross dresser.
Yeah, I'll see.
Yeah.
We're good at this job. So these are the pinch pleats I was talking about, and I've done a 3-fold pinch pleat on these ones, and then the mosquito mesh, I've just put some fabric around the edge to make it a little bit prettier with some little ribbon handles so we can pull it off a lot easier because the magnets are quite tight. On the other window behind the bed head, there's another mosquito net done the same as this. You saw us making the frame, and I've covered that one as well. And then the sheer curtains hang in front of that, but the camera's not showing that because there's too much light coming through. And then pinch pleats, they're just 2 folds rather than the 3 pinched up. They're just 2 folds because it was just a small window. The fans on the outside, the side of them curtains are they're fantastic. And the bung, I finished doing the bung. The blind just needs a little bit alteration at that end. It's not folded up properly, but yeah, pleased with it.